Hello, my name is Zephrem Tepper. This is my presentation on Pythagoras, the Greek philosopher.
Nothing Pythagoras himself wrote is still around today, so it is fortuitous that those that are thought to have known him kept many records which survive today. As a result, the man known as Pythagoras exists only in the second hand. This man had quite the persona. He was described as constantly inquisitive and subject to bouts of knavery. There is even some evidence that he lived in a cave so he could study in solitude. Despite his interesting and probably exaggerated personality, he was an upstanding member of society, going so far as to create a forum in which members of his community would discuss current events. He eventually moved away from his home of Samos in favor of what was then the Greek colony of Croton, where he founded his great school of Pythagoreanism. While the institute Pythagoras created was called a school, it more closely resembled a monastery with rigid routines and guidelines. Pythagoras was the founder of a way of life, one his disciples were sworn to follow. The Encyclopedia Britannica states that probably the bulk of the intellectual tradition originating with Pythagoras himself belongs to mystical wisdom rather than scientific scholarship. Those that followed the teachings of Pythagoras were fittingly dubbed Pythagoreans. These were some of the first people to consider numbers to be the nature of all things, as many scientists do today. However, the work of the Pythagoreans was not limited to math. It encompassed art, ontology, medicine, and poetry. This great multidisciplinary commune is one of the reasons no one is sure exactly how much of the work with his name on it Pythagoras actually did. Pythagoras had many followers that never even met him. He had a direct influence on great thinkers and scientists from Plato to Kepler to Newton. Pythagoras and his Institute of Scientific Inquiry is credited with groundbreaking work in mathematics. The Pythagoreans made great strides, particularly in geometry, where they laid groundworks for measuring unknown dimensions of shapes, given known ratios regarding their sides, vertices, and angles. This basis of trigonometry and geometry is the reason the name Pythagoras is uttered with reverence in today's math classes. More so, it's the reason modern math can be communicated so easily between disciplines of science, engineering, and art. One of the most important philosophies in the world of science is rationalism. The idea of problem solving based on known information, particularly in terms of science, is called the scientific method. The first works that are credited with conceiving this method are by Aristotle, an intellectual successor to the school of Pythagoras. The work the school of Pythagoras did to forge a path for Aristotle and his scientific method was essential for the advancement of technology and engineering. It stands to be reasoned that without Pythagoreanism, the world of science would be very different. The school of Pythagoras was in the middle of what should be called a scientific revolution.